Good day, everyone. So, my topic for today is about simulation models. So, in this lesson, we introduce most of the important concept of developing and analyzing spreadsheet simulation models. We also discuss many of the features available in the powerful simulation add-in at risk that you receive with this presentation. Now we apply the tools to a wide variety of problems that can be analyzed with simulation. So for convenience, we group up the applications into four general areas. So operation models, financial models, marketing models, and games of chance. The only overriding theme in this lesson is that simulation model can yield important insights in all of these areas. You do not need to cover all of the models in this lesson or cover them in any particular order. We can cover the ones of most interest to us in particular any order. So what is simulation models? It is the process of creating and analyzing digital prototype of a physical model to predict its performance in the real world. It is used to help designers and engineers understand whether, under what conditions, and in which ways a part could fail and what loads it can withstand. It can also help to predict fluid flow and heat transfer patterns. It analyzes the approximate working conditions by applying the simulation software. So tools to be wide a variety of problems that can be analyzed with simulation as I mentioned earlier. So we are focused on operations models, financial models, marketing models, and games of chance. Okay, tools to a wide variety of problems that can be analyzed with simulation. So we have operation models. These are just some of the challenges organizations face when they fail to design an effective analytics operating model. Yet, despite the pitfalls, only 1 in 5 organizations has implemented an organizational structure that makes the best and highest use of scarce analytics resources and ensures common tools and processes in develop and use across the enterprise. To avoid these common missteps, it helps to learn from successful insight-driven organizations, those that have turned analytics into a core capability across the enterprise by promoting a culture of data-driven decision-making. At leading IDOs or insight-driven organizations, analytics is treated as a living ecosystem where decisions around people, process, and technology are strongly integrated. Actually, in Canada, only 9% of Canadian organizations view analytics as living ecosystem where decisions around people, process, and technology are strongly integrated through an insight-driven mindset. In only and the leadership of an enterprise shared services or center of excellence for analytics or what we call COE. Uh, every organization is different, of course. So it should come as no surprise that there is no optimal analytics operating model. The goal is to make the best use of scarce analytics talent and drive alignment to common standards and priorities in line with your organization's strategies, goals, level of analytics maturity, and the supply and demand of organizational capabilities. That said, at early stages of analytics maturity, organizations typically adopt either a functional or center of excellence model. So, what is functional models? It consolidates scarce resources in business units that have already developed the most advanced analytics capabilities. The functions then act as a pioneers to develop common standards and instill an enterprise-wide analytics culture. The Center of Excellence models centralize their scarce or scar scale analytics talent by co-locating people in a cross-functional hub. And they also generally centralize enterprise-wide activities ranging from strategy and governance to awareness and education, process standardization, project management, and execution. The shared services and center of excellence models deliver additional benefits as well by giving analytics talent the opportunity to work on a wider range of analytics use cases. Notably, experience shows that analytics success rises when organizations select tangible use cases intended to solve a business issue and deliver measurable financial statement impacts. At the same time, the ability to work on diverse use cases enhances the attraction of analytics talent, encourages shared learning, and keeps always curious data scientists motivated and engaged. Now, adaptability is a key, of course. Although it can be tempting to assure that the operating model they select will see organization through each level of analytics maturity. The truth is more complex. As organization evolve, so too must their analytics operating model. The key then is to design for adaptability. And one way to do that is by creating cross-functional teams and co-locating them in a bid to break down organizational silos and foster a hands-on mindset. By bridging together data scientists, okay, of course, with read technical and quantitative skills, and business expert, the people with blue business acumen and storytelling skills, of course, to compose purple teams, organizations gain the agility to adapt their operating models in the face of rapid change. Now, the bidding for contracts. The contract bidding can prove a lucrative track, but the bidding process can feel Byzantine to those ignorant of its structures and process. And fortunately, like any project, it has a start and an end, and an understanding to the route between those 2 points starts by following different steps. Okay, so based on our ebook, we have an example of a government contract. So what will be the objective? So the main objective of this example is to simulate the profit of Miller from any particular bid and to see which bid amount is best. So where do the numbers came from or come from? Based on the given scenario in the ebook, no, they already discussed that type of bidding problem in chapter 6. Based on that, the new data required here are the parameters of the distributions of Miller's cost and those of the competitors' bids and the probability that a given competitor will place a bid. Triangular distribution are chosen for simplicity. No? Although Miller's could try other types of distribution. The parameters of this distribution are probably educated guesses, possibly based on previous contracts and bidding experience against these same competitors. And the probability that a given competitor will place a bid can be estimated from this same competitor's bidding history. So what will be the solution? So the logic is straightforward. So you first simulate the number of competitors who will bid and then simulate their bids. Then for any bid Miller makes, you see whether Miller wins the contract and if so, what is the profit is. Okay, so this will be the bidding simulation model. So as what we have here, no, inputs enter the inputs in the blue cell. So as you can see here, this will be the input. So based on what we have here, so all the blue, like this one, okay, is an input. No? Input. All of them are input. Now, Miller's bid, you can test all of Miller's possible bids simultaneously with the risk sim table function. To set for this, enter the formula equal risk to D16. So that is D, right? Then this will be the 16. This one, as you can see here, this will be the possible bids for Miller. Then, of course, in cell B16, that is B, no? Then 16, this one. As with all uses of this function, the spreadsheet shows the simulated values of the first bid, $10,500 US. However, when you run the simulation, you see outputs for all the bids. Miller's cost generally Miller's cost to prepare a bid in cell B19. So B19 is here for 16, no? Then copy the cell to B20. So that's 10,618. Okay? Then the competitors bid first generate the random number of competitors who bid. And this has a binomial distribution with 4 trials and probability of success equal to 0.5 for each trial. So enter the formula in risk binomial at B8. Okay, so this will be the risk binomial, ano? B8, yan, and B9. This will be the risk binomial in 5% each trial. So, in B21, this will be the number of competing bids, right? So, we have 2 here. Okay? Then, with, of course, Miller will not see these other bids until it has submitted its own bid. So, in cell B26, okay, so this will be the B26, though that is 1, right? Equals 1. Then B16 to B20 is equal to minus B19. In cell FB27, we have negative 534, right? Then the designated this cell as additional risk output cell. And we name it as profit. In running the simulation actually, no, set the number of iteration to 1,000. And set the number of simulation to 10 because there are 10 bid amounts Miller wants to test. So, the summary result appear in figure 16.2 no, later on for each simulation. So, that is each bid amount. There are 2 outputs, the 1 or 0 to indicate whether Miller wins, the contracts, and Miller's profit. The only interesting result for the 0 and 1 output are in the mean column, which show that fraction of iteration that resulted in ones. So you can see, for example, that if Miller bids 12,000, the probability of winning the bid is estimated to the about 0.6. This probability clearly decreases as Miller's bid increases. So in terms of net profit, if you concentrate only on the mean column, a bid amount $13,000 is the best. But as the other numbers in the figure indicate, the mean doesn't tell the whole story. So for example, if Miller bids $13,000 it could win the bid, but it still lost a considerable amount of any money because of cost overruns. The histogram of profit later indicates this more clearly. It shows that in spite of for positive mean, most outcomes are negative. So, what should Miller do? If it doesn't bid at all, its profit is certain $0. If Miller is an expected profit maximizer, then the fact that several of the means. So in figure 16.2, our positive indicates that bidding is better than not bidding, with a bid of $13,000 being the best bid. However, potential cost overruns and that corresponding losses are certainly a concern. So, depending on Miller's degree of risk aversion, the company might decide to not bid at all or bid higher than 13,000 US dollar to minimize its worst loss. Still, we would caution Miller not to be too conservative. Rather than focusing on the mean, the worst case of course column, we should suggest focusing on the 5% column. This shows nearly how bad things could get. 5% of what time it would be worse than this, and this fifth percentile remains fairly constant for higher bids. So, warranty costs. When we say warranty cost, it is the cost that a business expects to or has already incurred for the repair or replacement of goods that it has sold. The total amount of warranty expense is limited by the warranty period that a business typically allow. So, when you buy a new product, okay, it usually carries a warranty. No? A typical warranty might state that if the product fails within a certain period, such as 1 year, you will receive a new product at no cost. And it will carry the same warranty. However, if the product fails after the warranty period, you have to bear the cost by replacing the product. Due to random lifetimes of products, we need a way to estimate the warranty costs, of course, to the manufacturer of the product. What is financial models? It is the task of building an abstract representation of a real-world financial situation. And this is a mathematical model designed to represent the performance of a financial asset or portfolio of a business, project, or any investment. Typically, no, then financial modeling is understood to mean an exercise in either asset pricing or corporate finance of a quantitative nature. Uh, it is about translating a set of hypotheses about the behavior of markets or agents into numerical predictions. At the same time, financial modeling is a general term that means different things to different users, and the reference usually relates either to accounting and corporate finance applications or to quantitative finance application. A financial model is simply a tool that built in a spreadsheet software such as MS Excel to forecast a business financial performance in the future. The forecast is typically based on the company's historical performance, assumptions about the future, and requires preparing an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and supporting schedules. From there, more advanced types of model can be built such as discounted cash flow analysis, that is DCF model of course. From there, more advanced type of model can be built such as discounted cash flow analysis, mergers and acquisition, and sensitivity analysis. Okay? Uh, while there has been some debate in the industry as to the nature of financial modeling, whether it is a trade craft such as welding or science, the task of financial modeling has been gaining acceptance and rigor over the years. What is a financial model used for? So, the output of financial model is used for decision making and for performing financial analysis, whether inside or outside the company. Inside the company, executive will use financial models to make decisions. So, of course, about raising capital, making acquisitions, growing the business organically, selling or divesting asset and business units, budgeting and forecasting, capital allocation, valuing a business, financial statement analysis or ratio analysis, and management accounting. So, how can you learn financial modeling? The best way to learn financial modeling is to practice, of course. Ba? as what we say always, practice makes perfect. So it takes years of experiences to become an expert at building a financial model, and you really have to learn by doing. Reading equity research reports can be a helpful way to practice, as it gives you something to compare your self results to. One of the best ways to practice is to take a mature company's historical financials, build a flat line model into the future, and calculate the net present value per share. And this should compare closely to the current share price or the target prices of equity research reports. Financial planning models. Financial planning models are created to help executives explore the results of various business strategies. And these models can be simple or complex, but their essential function is to provide answers to what if financial questions posed by executive. Exploration of potential strategies ultimately leads to the creation of short-term and long-term company goals. Because financial planning models allows executive to forecast financial statement, and historical financial statements are used alongside other financial information and market data to create a model. And this will explore the components of a financial planning model in the part it plays in creating a company's financial plan. So, financial planning model elements. So, every element of financial planning model is essential, of course. Much like a chef needs all ingredients of a recipe to make a dish, an accountant needs all components of financial planning model to accurately estimate potential financial outcome. Let's look at the necessary elements of financial planning model. So, of course, a sales forecast drives a financial planning model. A pro forma financial statement provides an ideal financial projection. A list of asset requirements provides information about what is needed to drive sales growth or sales growth. And a list of financial requirements details debt and dividend information. And a plug is a projected figure such as financing option that a company could use to fund the strategies presented in the model. And of course, economic assumptions describe the economy, market sectors, and other external factors. So, example, developing a new car or GF Auto. So, General Ford or GF or General Ford Auto Corporation is developing a new model of compact car. This car is assumed to generate sales for the next 5 years. So, General Ford has gathered information about the following quantities through focus groups with the marketing and engineering departments. So, fixed cost of delivering car. This cost is assumed of 700 million US dollar, and the fixed cost is incurred at the beginning of year 1 before any sales are recorded. Margin per car. This is the unit selling price minus the variable cost of producing a car. The General Ford assumes that in year 1, the margin will be 4,000 US dollar. Every other year, GF assumes the margin will decrease by 4%. Then sales, the demand for the car is the uncertain quantity. In its first year, GF assumes sales number of cars sold will be triangularly distributed with parameters 50,000 or 75,000 or 85,000. Every year after that, the company assumes that sales will decrease by some percentage, where this percentage is triangularly distributed with parameters of 5, 8, and 10%. The General Ford also assumes that the percentage decreases in successive years are independent of one another. the depreciation and taxes, the company will depreciate its development cost on a straight line basis over the lifetime of the car. And the corporate tax rate is 40%. And the discount rate of the GF figures its cost of a capital of 10%. So given that assumption, GF wants to develop a simulation model that will evaluate its NPV of after-tax cash flow for this new car over the 5 years time horizon. So what will be the objective? So the objective is to simulate the cash flows from the new car model, from the development time to the end of its life cycle. So the GF can estimate the NPV of after-tax cash flows from this car. So where do the numbers come from? So there are many inputs to the problem. As indicated, they are probably obtained from experts within the company and from focus groups of potential customers. So what will be the solution? This model is like most financial multi-year spreadsheet models, and the completed model extends several years to the right, but most of the work is for the first year or two. So from that point, you can copy to the other years to complete the model. And developing the simulation model for GF appears, it can be formed as in figure 16.12. So this will be the GF auto simulation model. So as what we have here, no, enter the various inputs in the blue cells as what we have a while ago. So all the blue cells will be the input. And for the unit sales, of course, that is E5. So this will be the E5. Edit 5,000. 50,000 rather, 75,000 and 85,000. So for the risk triangle. Then, of course, for us to generate the reduced sales in later years by entering the formula, we have B12. No? B12, this is B12. B12 is equal to or equals B12 multiplied by 1 minus risk triangle. Okay? Then the contribution, of course, we have B5 and B13. B5 and B13 for the unit distribution. And for the depreciation, of course, calculate the depreciation each year in row 15 as the development cost in cell B4 divided by 5. So, B4, this one, divided by 5. And this is exactly what straight line depreciation means. Okay? So, before tax and after tax profits, to calculate the before tax profit in any year, subtract the depreciation from total contribution. So its value is in row 16 is the difference between the corresponding values in row 14 and 15. Okay? So that is row 14, row 15, and row 16. So the reason is that depreciation isn't taxed. To calculate the after-tax profit in row 17, so this will be the row 17, the after-tax profit. And of course, finally, its cash flow in row 18 is the sum of corresponding values in rows 15 and 17. That is the cash flow. Okay? And the depreciation is added back to get the cash flow. So the NPV, calculate the NPV of cash flows in cell B20. So this will be the B20. So B4 plus NPV. What is the NPV? Of course, the B8, B18, and F18. Okay? And designate it as a risk output cell. So we are assuming that the development cost is incurred right now. so that it isn't discounted, and that all other cash flows occur at the ends of the respective years, and this allows the NPV functions to be used directly. So this will be the histogram of NPV. So the set the number of iterations of 1,000 and the number of simulation to 1, and then run the simulation as usual. So after running a trace, you obtain the histogram in as what we have here. Then these results are somewhat comforting but also a cause of concern to GF. On the bright side, the mean NBV is about 31.5 million, and there is some chance of the NPV could go well above the figure, even up to almost 150 million US dollar. However, there is also a dark side as shown by the two sliders. In the histogram, one sliders had been placed over the NPV of 0. As the histogram indicates, there is about 71% chance of a positive NPV, but there is about 29% chance of it being negative. So the second higher slider has been positioned at its default 5th percentile setting. So financial analysts often call this percentile the value at risk at the 5% level, or VAR 5%, because it indicates nearly the worst possible outcome. From this simulation, you can see that GF's VAR 5% is approximately 68.2%. So before finishing this example, we revisit the flow of averages. What if GF used a deterministic model to estimate NPV? Would the result match those from the simulation? And we tried this two ways, once by entering the most likely values of the input instead of the random numbers, and once by entering the means instead of the random numbers. The result appear, of course, as distribution in the average of each three parameter. Okay, so as what we have here. So this will be an example of the deterministic models. Okay, so we have here the inputs using most likely values for uncertain inputs, and using means for uncertain inputs. Okay, cash balance models. The purpose of cash models is to satisfy cash requirements at the least costs. It attempts to determine the optimum cash balance under conditions of certainty. The objective is to minimize the sum of the fixed costs of transactions in the opportunity cost of holding cash balances. So, without monitoring your cash, how to measure it? Invest it, borrow it, and collect it. You can cheat yourself out of extra profits or even avoid trouble with creditors and bankruptcy. The main objective of cash management is an optimal cash balance, minimizing the sum of fixed costs of transaction in the opportunity cost of holding cash balance. Optimal balance here means a position when the cash balance amount is on the most ideal proportion, so that the company has the ability to invest the excess cash for a return, and at the same time have sufficient liquidity for future needs. The key ingredient actually here is that the cash balance should neither be excessive nor deficient. For example, companies with many bank accounts may be accumulating excessive balances. Do you know how much cash you need, how much you have, where the cash is, and what the sources of cash are, and where the cash will be used? This is especially crucial in recession. Investment models. The purpose of cash model is to satisfy cash requirements at the least cost. It attempts to determine the optimum cash balance under condition of certainty. The objective is to minimize the sum of fixed costs of transaction and the opportunity cost of the holding cash balance. Thus, one the basis of who invests in assets for increasing production, of course, are the three major investment models. So we have different investment models. Now, number one, public investment models. So for a government to invest, it needs revenue. So mainly tax revenue actually. But the present tax revenues of, for example, in other countries like India, are not sufficient enough to meet the budgetary expenditure of India. So India cannot move ahead in the path of growth without private individuals, even for government to have a share in the investment. And they need tax revenue from the private investors. Actually, same with the Philippines setup. Now, how about the private investment model? So the private investment can come from the Philippines or abroad. It's from abroad, they can be as FDI or FPI, no? As the current account deficit is widening due to the increase of, for example, oil import. In this age of globalization, we can say no to the FDI or FPI. Why private investment, of course, in other country, for a country to grow and increase its income, the production has to be increased. More goods and services have to be produced. Infrastructures to support production, transport, energy, and communication should also be developed. But how can a nation with near 30% of population below poverty line invest in production or infrastructure? Who has money to invest? The government? Okay. How about public-private partnership model? Okay. So the PPP or the public-private partnership means combining the best benefit from both public and private investment. And some of the project finance schemes are, of course, we have the BOT, no? Build, operate, transfer. We have BOOT, build, own, operate, then transfer. We have BOO, build, own, operate. BLT, build, lease, transfer. We have DBFO, design, build, finance, operate. We have also DBOT, design, build, operate, and transfer. And of course, the other one is the DCMF, design, construct, manage, and finance. Again, depending from where investment comes, there are two other investment models, the domestic and the foreign. The domestic investment model, it can be from public, private, or PPP. When we say foreign investment model, it can be 100% FDI or foreign domestic mix. And depending on where the investment goes or how investment are planned, there are various investment models. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with sector-specific investment models or cluster investment model. No, cluster investment model is, example is food processing industries, right? Now, how about the marketing models? No, create for a purpose, make assumptions about what they are representing, and typically consist of variables that describe the relationship that are of interest. Okay? Open analogies are made to maps and charts that are also vehicles to portray relationship. Now, there are plenty of opportunities to marketing departments to use simulation. No? They face uncertainty in the brand switching behavior of customers, the entry of new brands into the market, customer preferences for different attributes of products, the effects of advertising on sales, and so on. And we examine some interesting marketing application of simulation as we prepare to do so. Now, in looking for an operational definition of what a marketing model is, certain keywords emerge, and these are representation of real words or events, objects or processes and relationship. Importantly, a model is not merely an area of application, a statistical technique, nor a generic description. CRM, regression, analysis, and data mining are not marketing model per se. They are an area of application and a statistical technique and a generic description. Now, marketing models are created for a purpose. Make assumptions about what they are representing and typically consist of variables that describes the relationships that are of interest. Often, analogies are made to maps in charts that are also vehicles to portray relationship. Furthermore, in defining a marketing model, there tends to be a distinction made between the construction and building of the model vs. The application of the model, in the most general sense, a model is anything used to represent something else. A map used to represent a section of countryside is a model, and so is a chart used to represent concurrent changes in fuel oil sales and temperature. It is also stated another way that marketing model is a stylized representation of reality that is easier to deal with and explore for a specific purpose than reality itself. Because modeling is simply a means of examining, depicting, specifying, and operationalizing relationship. The following charts, as what we have here now, exhibit the fundamental corresponding between a model and the real-world marketing. So, models of customer loyalty. The loyalty business model is a business model used in strategic management in which company resources are employed so as to increase the loyalty of customers and other stakeholders in the expectation that corporate objectives will be met or surpassed. A typical example of this type of model is quality of product or service leads to customer satisfactions, which lead to customer loyalty, which lead to profitability. I think what we need to do first is to define what is loyal customer, no? This is an extremely important question for companies, no? It is the important part of customer relationship management or CRM, currently one of the hottest topics in marketing, no? Companies know that if customers become dissatisfied with the company's product, they are likely to switch and never return. Marketers refer to this customer loss or churn. The loss in profit from churn can be large, and particularly because long-standing customers tend to be more profitable in any given year than new customers. It is based on the excellent, of course, discussion of customer loyalty and rich health. No? Three competing models based on same-sex construct have been examined to find out which model explain mobile subscribers' loyalty most meaningful. Data were collected from 195 subscriber to state-on. This will be a research actually. No? In all three models, the construct were measured with same indicators and most of the causal paths were common too in all three models. So they have confirmatory factor analysis was employed to assess the validity and reliability of each construct, and the results were satisfactory. The structural equation modeling was used to assess the data model fit The confirmatory factor analysis was employed to assess the validity and reliability of each construct, and the results were satisfactory. Again, structural equation modeling was used to assess the data model fit. All three models display satisfactory goodness of fit indices. Path analysis was used to assess the hypothesis. In the first two models, all hypotheses were empirically supported. However, to evaluate the competing models, chi-square, no, or chi-square, difference statistic and change the degrees of freedom had been used. Okay? Now, marketing and sales model. So, we conclude this marketing section with a model of marketing and selling condos, no? Based on the given example in our ebook. The main issue is that timing of sales, and we demonstrate how a deterministic model of this timing can provide very misleading results. The bottom line, success of your business hinges on its ability to execute the sales that will generate revenue. Developing a reliable means of reaching clients is a challenge for many sales and marketing managers. The way that you choose to communicate with clients and sell your products or services is reflected in your choice for sales distribution model. And unfortunately, picking the wrong strategy could impact your bottom line, requiring that you reassess those missed opportunities for the sake of your long-term survival. So, what is sales distribution model? Okay? The word distribution might conjure up images of trucks loaded to the gills with pride, but distribution is also a sale and marketing issues. Your company sales distribution model is the method by which it sells product and services to its target clients. In a perfect world, products and services would sell themselves. Unfortunately, this isn't reality, and you're going to have to put in some work to get your clients' attentions, help customers see the value of your product or service as a solution to their problem, establish a level of trust with potential clients, make it easy for customer to say yes and make payment, ensure that clients receive their goods and remain satisfied, and different types of sale distributions model. Before you can sell someone your product and services, an extensive amount of research needs to be done to understand their particular needs and how they prefer to do business. So for example, clients want more personalized service while others just want to place their orders and not be bothered. Some want to learn about products and place orders online, and other needs customized materials and more prompting to place orders. And I think, as far as I remember, we have two different types of distribution channels. Of course, we have the business to business or the B2B and B2C, the business to consumer distribution. For the sake of this discussion, no, most sales and marketing department struggle with finding the best strategies to connect with other business clients or the B2B marketing. The three main categories of sale distributions model are, of course, we have the intensive, selective, and exclusive distribution. The intensive distribution refers to the distribution involving a lot of intermediaries. One example is printer paper. It is available through many brick and mortar stores as well as online. It has many channels of distribution. We have selective distribution. It refers to having just a few intermediaries. Example is office furniture, no? Because offer furniture distribution is limited to a few resources. And the last one is the exclusive distribution. Okay? It means that it's just a very few intermediaries or even one will carry the products. A recent example is the Google Pixel 2 smartphone that was released in October 2017. If consumer wants to own one of these popular new devices, they are exclusively sold through Verizon Wireless. The last one for the four models is simulating games of chance. Simulation, we realized that these ebooks about business application. However, it is instructive to see how simulation can be used to analyze games of chance, including sports contests. Indeed, many analysts refer to Monte Carlo simulation, and you can guess where that name comes from, the gambling casinos of Monte Carlo. Some of the basic results of probability in statistics are illustrated by simulation in dwelling games. And note, a simulation of the classic dwelling game was made with MATLAB. In these simulations are made with Wolfram Mathematica, beside game of one couple of shooters and going to several types of generalization. The obtained results illustrate one of the basic theoretical results in statistics: bigger number of tests, bigger estimate of the probability. Simulating the games of craps. Most games of chance are great candidates for simulation because they are, by their very nature, driven by randomness. As what we have in our book, it examined one such game that is extremely popular in the gambling casinos, the game of craps. In the most basic form, craps is played as, of course, a player rolls 2 dice and observe the sum of the 2 sides turn up. If this sum is 7 or 11, the player wins immediately. If the sum is 2, 3, or 12, the player loses immediately. Otherwise, if the sum is any other number like 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10, the number becomes the player's point. Then the dice are thrown repeatedly until the sum is the player's point or 7. In case the player's point occurs before a 7, the player wins. But if a 7 occurs before the point, the player loses. So this will be a simulation template. Okay? So the text boxes provide the motivation and instruction. There are 2 basic ideas. The first, of course, you often have particular inputs you would like to vary in a sensitivity analysis. Once you specify this in the input section, the program will run a separate simulation for each combination of the input values. So as what we have here, we have the overview, the run simulation, we have the simulation model, we have the inputs and the outputs. So as what we have a while ago, the spreadsheet simulation, especially together with add-in link at risk, is a very powerful tool. After seeing this example in this discussion, you should now appreciate how powerful and flexible simulation is. Unlike solver optimizations models, where you often make simplifying assumptions to achieve linearity, and say you can allow virtually anything in simulation models. All you need to do is relate output cells to input cells with appropriate formulas, where any of the input cells can contain any particular output. It is no wonder that companies such as GF or GM, Eli Lilly, and many other are increasingly relying on simulation models to analyze their corporate operations. So this will be the summary of key terms. So we have gamma distribution, right skew distribution for non-negative values useful for many quantities such as the lifetime of an appliance. We have the risk gamma functions. Implement the gamma distribution in at risk gamma. And we have value at risk that 5% level, CHOM, and run bandwidth. So this will be my references for this discussion. So thank you and good afternoon, good day everyone.